Welcome and hello everyone. We are glad that you can join us today. We are from Group 8 and we would like to present to you our student-led conference group research discussion on the topic of acceptance and perception of mainstream teachers and students towards students with disabilities in an inclusion classroom in Indonesia and Malaysia. If you have any questions regarding our topic, you may ask at the end of the presentation. Thank you, and now let's get started. Here are the contents that we will discuss today. The Part 1, Introduction. The concept of inclusion education. Based on Paraskevi G 2021, the inclusion of special educational needs students in mainstream schools is a global trend. This has been the subject of ongoing research and discussion in recent decades. Inclusion as a concept is a philosophy that urges schools, neighborhoods, and communities to welcome and value everyone, regardless of differences. The center to the philosophy of inclusion are the beliefs that everyone belongs to somewhere. Diversity is valued and we can all learn from each other. Regarding our discussion, we are looking forward to inclusive education from the perspective of the two countries of Asia, which are Indonesia and Malaysia, since all of us come from these two countries. According to Indonesia's regulation, Permendiknas number 70, the year 2009, at least one inclusive school at the elementary and junior high school levels has to be implemented in each district and high school level for the province. Meanwhile, in Malaysia, the inclusive education program aims to integrate special needs children into mainstream classes with support of teaching aids and additional assistance. It was targeted to create a more inclusive learning environment by not segregating children with different needs from other students. Hence, we can see the inclusion is concerned with the identification and removal of different forms of barriers. Why did we choose this topic though? Well, we chose it as we noticed that in recent years, the acceptance of disabled students in the inclusive classroom is a challenge that must be accepted by mainstream teachers and students. In addition to receiving the challenge from the school, typical students' acceptance is also an aspect that needs to be addressed. Therefore, this issue influences their acceptance and perception of the implementation of inclusive education. The Part 2, Background. For the research background, based on UNESCO 1994, inclusive education, originally defined by the Salamanca Statement, which refers to schooling in which all children, including children with severe disabilities, have access to regular classrooms with the existence of adequate support. Moreover, attitudes are one of the important concepts in social psychology that refer to the association between an attitude object and an evaluative category as good versus bad or like versus dislike. Albarracin and Friends 2011. In the context of inclusive education, attitudes refer to how teachers and students think, feel, and behave towards inclusion, classrooms, and special educational needs students. Readiness to accept special educational needs students in a mainstream classroom requires mainstream teachers and students to have a positive attitude and sufficient knowledge about special educational needs students, besides the facility provided by the institutions. These are some of the past research that we have reviewed and taken from the year of 2011, 2019, and 2020. Based on the study that has made by Forlin, ETAL, Farmer, ETAL, and Salvolita, we can conclude all of the researchers is that acceptance of disabled students in the inclusive classroom is a challenge that must be accepted by mainstream teachers and students due to many forms of barriers in inclusion. Hence, we are using the SACIR scale as it is believed that scaling early towards pre-service and in-service teachers can help to identify their perspectives as a piece of useful information to create a framework in order to change their perceptions about the sentiments, attitudes, and concerns among the inclusive students. Based on Murdaka ETAL 2018, using this tool can help the teachers to be fully heedful in their social justice and critical pedagogy, since most of them are still unmindful in the acceptance and perception of inclusion in the aspects of sentiments and concerns. So, the research questions and issues that we would like to discuss in our research when we are doing the proposal were: how much is the percentage of the acceptance of mainstream teachers and students towards disabilities students in the inclusion classroom? And what is the perception of the mainstream teachers and students towards the presence of disabilities students in the inclusion classroom?
Participants for the research will be recruited using certified sampling methods. The sample will consist of a total of 200 participants, which will be divided into two groups of 100 Malaysian and 100 Indonesians. For each group, there will be 50 students and 50 teachers. The inclusion criteria for the teachers that will be used in this research are high school mainstream teachers of any random subjects. As for the students, we will use high school students aged from 15 to 18 years old. Both teachers and students must not have any types of disability or illness that would prevent them from completing the questionnaire and willingly to participate in the study. The instrument that will be used in this research is the Sentiments, Attitudes, and Concern about Inclusive Education Revised Version Scale by Forlin et al. In 2011 with suitable adaptation. The scale will assess three dimensions of inclusive education, which are sentiments, attitudes, and concern. This scale consists of 24 items that divided into two parts: the demographic and the question regarding the perception of participants toward inclusive education. These scales use 4-level Likert item from 1 to 4. 1 stand for strongly disagree, 2 stand for disagree, 3 stand for agree, and 4 stand for strongly agree. The number of schools targeted in this study is 20, 10 each in Indonesia and Malaysia. After determining which school will be taken as the population sample, the researcher will randomly select 5 teachers and 5 students from each of the schools to be recruited as the respondents for the study. The researcher will later distribute the survey and conduct a face-to-face interview with the participants. After the data is collected, the quantitative data will be analyzed using SPSS software, while the qualitative data will be analyzed using the open coding method. Analysis of qualitative content will be guided by grounded theory, which provides a systematic procedure for identifying categories and their relationships. We will follow the coding process suggested by Creswell and also by Strauss and Corbin by using open coding, axial coding, and selective coding. As for quantitative data, will be analyzed by using descriptive statistics, t-test, f-test, and Pearson product moment correlation. A stepwise regression analysis will be conducted to explain acceptance toward inclusions with mainstream teachers and mainstream student-related factors used as independent variables. We realized that there are some limitations in our research proposal. Since we use the self-report scale methods, there will be a response bias, measurement bias, and socially desirable responses by the participants. We may also have a lack of demographic details as a shortcoming for elaborate analysis of data. These are some references that we use in our proposal presentations. Okay, everyone, that's the end of our research proposal presentations. We are sincerely appreciate your attention today, and now we would be interested to hear your thought and your question about our research proposal. Thank you, everyone.